just going to make a quick announcement in game one more time before we get to chatting.
Okay, cool. I'll shoot over something in my Twitter as well. I was talking about it, so we should have a few people come in from my side.
Nice, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Good, buddy. So how was your day? There's Waddles, actually. Let's see if we can invite him into the call. How do I do that if I've already started? Da, 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 da. All right, well, I'm going to leave the call and start it one more time really quick just to see if I can get DrDog's invite, because I think the rotating camera we see there is actually me. I don't think his call, he's still invited on the call. All right, so I'm going to restart the call really quick.
Okay, cool.
Just to see if we can toss another invite to Waddles. He'll send us a message if he's not in, but I did see him go green, so I'd like to do that real fast before we get started.
Oh, yeah,
and hello, everybody. Thank you, be right back. Hope everyone's doing well. We're just getting the call set up and then we'll get moving. Layvan, I might need you to leave the call real quick. Oh, look at that. That's supposed to be hidden. There we go. Or maybe not. I don't know if I had to...
Oh, boy.
Jesus, it scared the crap out of me. Thanks for the follow. All right, so... There's a bit of a slow start last time, too, where we ended up getting 50 or 60 people in here. I'm not really sure where Waddles is, but we'll see what's going on. Okay, so the karma system. Welcome to episode 2, Talk is Cheap, where I'd really like to pick apart 1 or 2 topics about BDO and the current system and see where opinions lie. We've got Layvan here. Everyone say hello to Layvan. Layvan, say hi.
How's it going? How's everybody doing?
That's pretty cool. I'm glad I have the cameras running this time. Last time everybody was just a disembodied voice, and so I got a little feedback on how to capture the camera, which is pretty cool. I am an old man, so technology comes slow to me. It's part of the territory. So, taking a look at the notes here. There we go. So your topic, or mine and your topic, was mainly on... Oh, look at that. I can actually see him attempting to join. That's pretty cool. Okay. Was mainly about the karma system. And what I did is I opened up an open forum on the Reddit, and we actually got like a good 90 replies on different ideas and thoughts and how they would like to revamp the karma system. But before I get into that at all, what is your general opinion of the karma system? And... tell me how you feel about it from your perspective.
So, to push things off on like a good note, like I do think that there needs to be some sort of limitation, so people can't just go around killing everybody at all times with no penalties and things of that nature. I agree. I even agree with the thought process of having a karma system, and it being like karma based. It's kind of cool how they did it, but it's like they had all. I said this before. It's like they have all the ingredients and like they had a solid recipe, but they didn't bake it right. So like, for example, one of the things that I don't really like about the karma system is the fact how heavily it punishes being red with absolutely no reward. Like if you're going to punish something with like such like an iron fist, there needs to be, even if it's not equal, at least somewhat of an equal like positive side to it as well, to give it purpose or to encourage that different style of play. Because as of right now, the only pro or the only good thing about being a red player is legitimately two things, and that's one,
infamy.
access to is unable to get karma bombed essentially, so you can stand up for your spot and in the desert, and you can kill somebody as much as you want, and they can't grief you. But again, griefing is kind of having to go red to avoid griefing is kind of silly. But and the second positive is there's a 30% experience buff that you can get from Mequin. You can get that once a day, and you have to kill 3 positive karma players in order to get that buff. But the buff is, I believe, 90 minutes long. It's 30%, and it starts ticking the second you complete the quest, and you have to turn it in Mequin. So unless you're grinding somewhere in Valencia, then you're already wasting time, with the buff, and it's not that much of it. It's really not that important. 30% to go through that kind of trouble just to get 30 extra percent is ridiculous, especially with all the events going on with the 100% XP buff and everything like that.
Looks like Dog's probably going to join us in a second there. We just got hit by a host. So I'll be honest, I didn't even know that there was an actual benefit to going red. I was going to ask you that. Like, obviously there's some infamy there. Like, well before I even knew about your stream, I knew about you as a person who played the game at a very high risk and no reward standpoint. And I guess as a streamer that might be a bit beneficial because you got a little bit of infamy going for your name, but you have to fight uphill the whole time because you have a chance of losing your own personal goods, like enchantments and shit. But you wouldn't get rid of the karma system completely.
No, I wouldn't. And I was a red player far before I was a streamer content creator. I was a red player more than a year and a half ago. And I just started content creating maybe 2.5 months ago, almost 3. So
okay.
Yeah,
and what made you?
My own volition there.
What made you make that decision?
The biggest thing was I was trying to, at the time, grinding to 60 was like basically the 61 or like a slightly less hard 62. Like 60 was like like the cap. It was like the hard cap. So I was grinding to 60, and I was just running into a lot of people all the time. And karma bombed. And that's the same time, or around the same time I started my guild. And people of lower gear score were getting karma bombed, and it was just a huge problem. And I went red one time helping somebody.
Sorry to interrupt. Let's just welcome Dog. He's here.
Oh, what's up, Dog? How you doing?
How's it going?
What is up, Dog? Hey, buddy. So just a quick catch up. We were talking to Layvan. We started off with the karma system. Welcome, Dr. Dog, by the way, to the stream, and thank you for the host. We barely got started, so you haven't missed too much. We're talking about Layvan's history and about the fact that he's been a red player for much longer than a content creator, and how he wouldn't get rid of the karma system completely, but he definitely believes that there needs to be more benefit to the risk for going perma-red. And then we'll continue on that note, and then I'll ask Dog what your opinion is of the current karma system before we get into some of the. I was surprised at how heated the discussion got on Reddit. because usually when I ask questions on the subreddit for this game, it is mostly shit posts and memes. But we had like 80 or 90 responses because about the karma system, and a lot of people were actually thinking pretty hard about how they would revamp it. So I'm pretty impressed. I like that people are emotionally invested, and I'm excited to hear what they have to say. But yeah, so long story short, you've been a red player for a while, and you did it more to protect. You started out protecting your guild almost because you were the geared player. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't necessarily geared, but I could afford to go red because I was a ninja. It's a little bit easier to go red because I can get away, and if one person goes red, then essentially nobody else has to. You know, as long as you're around often and things like that. So yeah, I essentially just became red to ward off karma bombers from my guild. And then once people in my guild started getting geared, I'm like, well, I might as well help other people too, because I hate karma bombers. So I just started helping other people, and that's kind of how the bounty system, or me bounty hunting, got introduced like heavily. Like I actually came up and like pushed the bounty hunting idea before the game was even released on the forums. I actually have a couple of really funny screenshots about that. Like during the very first closed beta, I was on the forums like, oh, there should be like a red town and like a bounty. But yeah, and then it drove me into bounty hunting, and then I never stopped being red because I liked it.
How did you get paid for your bounties?
At the time, you could trade a lot more food then, so it was mostly just like food, like in-game food, obviously. And
no one was sending you pizza.
Right.
Okay.
And then once they started getting rid of a lot of the food items that you could trade, it just became more or less artisan memories. And then if they were important enough, some I even do for free because I'm bored. And then jungle hamburgers are basically like the only good food that you can trade now, but I don't even use those anymore really, so kind of tough. So it's a tough world out there for bounty hunting.
Damn, dude. Okay, I also just noticed that all three of us are streaming our beds, so props to our beds. Who's got the nicer one? I think Dog's bed is nicer and also probably made. Good job. Okay, let's get right into some of the karma revamp ideas. So I tend to come up with too convoluted ideas, and what I noticed on the Reddit post is that there was a lot simpler ones. And one of the biggest ones I noticed was a 1 mil karma cap and a cooldown on a loss of karma from the same player, say something like 5-10 minutes. How do you feel about that? Let's start with Dog since he hasn't had the chance to say hi yet.
Could you summarize the question real quick again?
Yeah, so how would you revamp the karma system? So actually, you know what? Before I jump into it, the first comment that we had in Reddit was, and this will give you time to think about it too, one of the suggestions to fix karma was to give us a 1 million karma cap, not 300,000. And to have it so once you've killed someone and you lose karma to them, the next 5 minutes of killing them, you don't lose karma. Or something like that. This guy actually said 10 minutes, to be honest. I thought that was a little high, but that was one of the more interesting suggestions that got the conversation rolling. I'll let you think over that for a bit, but what I'd like to do first is introduce DrDog to the stream. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself as a content creator, what you play in BDO, where you like to spend most of your time, and anything at all featuring your stream. And go.
All right. Hello. My name is DrDog. I am a high IP DK who plays mostly PvP content. I do live scaling every so often, but pretty rarely on stream. I usually do that in my off time. Started streaming about the start of this year, January. So in case you guys ever have any questions, take a stop by, ask it in chat, and I will do my best to get to every single one that I can answer. Other than that, so speaking on the karma system, I actually heard that system was implemented in KR a long time ago, although I believe that turned out to be something of a misnomer. I don't think it actually is implemented as far as I know. So,
what do you mean? So that the 1 mil system, or
not the 1 mil system, the one where when you kill a player for the next certain period of time, you no longer lose karma by attacking that player. And it seemed very, very logical to me. I was actually hoping that it was going to reach our servers at some point, until I heard that it wasn't in fact actually implemented in KR. But to me,
it was just a rumor.
Sort of system, it makes a lot of sense because you still lose karma, there's still punishment, but when you kill a player and you've beaten them for this spot, and they come back, if they kill you in turn, then they don't lose karma fighting you as well, and then it just becomes a brawl. If you kill them and you win, and you continually win, then that means that there's no further punishment past that point. And the same goes vice versa. If they attack you, they don't lose karma anymore. And so, in my opinion, with grind spots in general, the stronger players should typically take the spot because usually they're more capable of farming the spot at a more efficient rate. But at the same time, on the other end of the coin, newer players struggle a lot to find free spots in very contested areas with the best income. But I'm personally of the opinion that a newer player should still be at a lower leveled area if they can't hold their spot in a high leveled area. So that sort of karma system works very well in my mind.
Agreed. I had a really weird analogy that was brought up on stream. I thought it was pretty funny. I forget who said it, but they said basically grinding is like a survival zombie movie. And what they meant was is that the grind spot, or you don't go to the grind spot based on what you can handle at the grind spot. It's based on the PvP that you can handle there. So a zombie movie is not as dangerous as the zombies. It's as dangerous as the other people that you have to fight for resources, etc., etc. It was a weird analogy, and the guy wrote it down way better than I'm explaining it right now. But it makes sense. Like if you can just barely handle Sawsons, maybe you should be at Elric's, because there you'll probably be able to handle the people that are there. Right. If that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, cool. So will having a bigger karma pool solve it? Do we need something else, like when you die to the same person multiple times, should you not be able to respawn at node anymore? Should you have to walk back further? So that way, I mean, you've proven you can't keep the spot from them. Maybe you should walk back further and respawn at the closest major town. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I've heard the town suggestion before, where if you die like 3 to 4 times to the same player, then you get shoved back and you have to spawn town, which that would be pretty annoying, like in Sawsons, because you had to go all the way down to Tariff, and I can see that working as well. And it definitely discouraged people, and it kind of get them to the point where they're like, okay, I'm definitely wasting my time continuously dying to this person. So, I mean, I can see that working as well, and I would be completely fine with that. And I don't think that's not like something that could be abused either, necessarily. I think maybe that's one reason why they wouldn't want to implement it, because maybe, or at least both of those at the same time, because people could abuse that to teleport to Tariff instantly. You know, like, hey, kill me 5 times really quick at node, and then I'll spawn at the town or whatever. Because they're like super cautious about implementing things that can be taken advantage of, even though there's been the negative karma alt for disenchanting, the command and gather for trading, and everything like that. So
I can't imagine how that would be abused in a way that would really benefit anybody except for a quicker trip home, I guess. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is people abusing something to move trade crates quickly. And I think that's the first thing that people start thinking of whenever they think of any type of travel. Like previously in the past, you could, I don't know, there was a way to do a quick travel where you would whistle before you do the transport feature and then log out to another character and your horse would go with you or something like that. I don't know how it works. So that kind of stuff, I guess. So some of the ideas that I had, okay, wait, actually, this was a really cool quote. So a quote based on someone I was talking to them about the same thing about revamping the karma system, and my question to them was, is out farming worse than ganking? Like, is it worse to have someone just go, well, I'm not going to flag on you because I can out farm you, and I physically move faster than you, and I can kill mobs faster than you, regardless of the fact that you're stronger. So I'm going to push you out of your spot. How do you deal with that when you are grinding, DrDog? So, I guess it doesn't happen when you're 270 something AP, but let's see if we can remember back to the last time that someone could out farm you, and there was nothing you could do about it. They did not want to flag. You were out of karma. You just move on. Is there anything else you could do to deal with it? Do you think that should be a thing you have to deal with? It's just part of the game, or what?
Right. So normally when I grind, I usually grind slow as a turtle because I'm not a huge fan of grinding in general. It's not a very exciting and dynamic activity. But when somebody comes into your rotation, even if they clear very, very slowly, if they go in a reverse rotation, or if they're only killing 1 or 2 packs, it really sort of ruins the whole thing for you. It ruins your income per hour. It doesn't
Yeah.
even provide them very good income per hour. So if the karma system was less punishing, I feel like issues like this would be alleviated, because of the fact that even if they're taking your mobs, you have a way to retaliate. Even if you might not be clearing as fast as they can, if you can beat them in a 1v1 duel and take this spot from them with a less punishing karma system, that might be a potential way of feeling more fair in that scenario, I suppose, because even though you greatly outgear them, they can still ruin your rotation no matter what their gear is, no matter how fast they clear. If they're just taking 1 or 2 or 3 extra packs or going in a reverse rotation or something like that, essentially bringing your income down to maybe 70-60% of what it was. I suppose with that spawning at town thing as well, it wouldn't be a bad choice, because you wouldn't be able to move trade crates with it. Your horse has a limited call range. You would have to remote collect it from the stable, and that would destroy the trade items, so that's not too much of a concern. Getting back to town earlier, maybe, but if you set the kill limit high enough, maybe it's 3 or 4, if it takes long enough to get spawned back at town anyways, it would be easier to just walk back anyways, especially if you have a fast mount. But in terms of out farming, I don't really find it as... I mean, it's a valid way of pushing out people from a spot, but I think the
Yeah.
only reason it actually exists as prevalently as it does is because the karma system is a little bit too punishing. Open world PvP isn't rewarding enough, and they can just walk back within 30 seconds to a minute from the node manager and continue contesting your spot. Even if you kill them, they can just not flag up, continue out farming you. And that's sort of just, I guess, another form of what people consider karma bombing, because if you just keep coming back, keep farming the mobs, ignoring the person who was previously in the rotation, you run into, I guess, a moral quandary there.
Yeah, very true. So I play a tamer. I'm not on the top end of farming speed or movement speed, and I'm sitting at 540 gear score, 245 AP. So not bad. And I'll, like, especially with this current event, I will farm at Sawsons, because all of the free stones that the game is throwing at us is ridiculous. It's the only way for me personally to make 30 mil plus an hour, because I'm not the greatest grinder. I don't have the fastest reaction speed, and my cancels for movement are not as good as some players that are better at video games than me. And B, I'm a tamer. Tamers don't grind super, like, they're middle of the road. I started as a ninja. I moved to a, actually started as a Zerker, moved to a ninja, moved to Mewa, moved to tamer. So for some reason I keep just going through all of the low to medium speed grinders. And one of my methods of dealing with someone who, if I was there first and someone comes to fight me and I can beat them, and I do, and they keep coming back and then they try to outgrind me, the only strat I've ever had is I will change my rotation so that it's close by, and then I take the biggest pack of the old rotation that they've pushed me out of. And I will just time it so I can always take that big pack before they get there, usually within 20 minutes. Actually, I'll say this with 100% accuracy. Always within 20 minutes, they just think it's not worth it anymore and they leave. I don't think that should be a valid strat. I think it's kind of lame, and I could have just moved on. I could have just moved to another channel, but I wanted that moral high ground. I wanted that moral victory of being like, haha, I got my spot back. That was the only thing I could think of that would do it. So we got some pretty good responses here from people with other perspectives. So here's let me just read another. Actually, before I move on to that, I had the idea of a karma potion. A karma potion meaning, you know how energy potions work right now? You spend 200 energy to get 50. What about something like that? You spend, let's say, of your 300,000 energy or karma, you spend 200,000 of it and you get, I don't know, maybe only 50k or something like that. And they're also sellable. And what do you think that would do to the game?
That's interesting. It's really thought provoking. My like knee-jerk reaction would be, I can kind of see that.
But you're Prima Red, right? So it might be difficult for, like, it doesn't do anything for you, right? So
yeah, well, no, yeah, it's pointless for me. But I mean, like, for other people, I can kind of see people like grinding up to 300k karma, and then they go and get these potions, and just like they would at the energy vendor or something, and then and stock up on them, and hopefully they stack, and then continuously keep grinding, get 300k again, and get them and get them and get them. So whenever
They
they
don't
do run
stack,
into
but
that,
for 300 pearls, you can have a karma bag. Sorry, keep going.
oh, you're fine. Yeah, and then when they do eventually meet a karma bomber while they're grinding, they continuously kill them, and if they start getting low, they can pop that karma potion, like the energy potion, and instantly get another 50k karma. So it kind of gives them more of a buffer. That's interesting. It adds a new element to the game, but it's the same thing as just increasing the karma cap essentially, but just making it more work. So that's the only thing that I would say would combat that. Like, why not just raise the karma cap to like 1 million or something?
Yeah,
rather
I
than
guess
do
it's
all
more
of it.
active than passive, but
Mhm.
what depends on what the person likes. Another idea that someone brought up was a thing called a bloodstone, and this actually would affect you more. And that's the idea where you know how we have if you guys do your any type of dailies, those I'm going to say this wrong by the way, but prognal stones. And when you do dailies, you get these bricks that you can turn into the money vendor for an extra couple million after you do your Calpheon dailies to keep people in the higher tier still wanting to do dailies. Imagine if there was another slot open that it was available for PvP, open world PvP. So karma systems, only directly affects open world PvP. So the best thing to do is to brainstorm ways to what's the word I'm looking? Incentivize open world PvP. Mini Buns likes Dog's bedroom, by the way. He's very happy with that. Okay, so so let's say you have this bloodstone, and when you kill someone who has a higher gear score than you, karma doesn't matter. You kill someone who has an equal or higher gear score than you, it starts to fill up. At a certain point, you can use it for benefits. Maybe it's buffs that you can use in PvP. Maybe it's just a title. Maybe it's actually money or something you can monetize. How would you solidly implement that or close an idea on that? How would you run with that idea so that we actually have a way to monetize and incentivize open world PvP? I'm of the mind that I hate, I'm old, so very old school opinion in the way that I don't like, what's the word I'm looking for? Instanced PvP. I prefer, Mini Buns likes it, by the way. I prefer no instance PvP and complete open world PvP, but I came from games where you could kill people and take their stuff, and it was okay. Like, you just had to deal with losing your stuff, losing your level, losing your home, whatever. But we need something along the lines that has a better entry point for new people, or else people will just get griefed out of a game, and it's a bad business idea. And it's way too far from the model of BDO to even brainstorm it. But what about this item where you fill it up with PvP blood, and it only works when you fight someone equal or higher gear score than you? And then how do you incentivize that? How do you empty the bloodstone? How do you turn it into benefit for you? What would you like out of that?
You could provide
It's a Marnie stone for PvP. Exactly, Mini Buns. Good eye.
a great way to do it would be to have a sort of positive feedback cycle where the more people you kill, the higher tangible stats you get. Maybe like AP, more DP, more HP, something like that. Because that makes it it gives you a reward, and it also incentivizes people to hunt you down so you don't get too powerful. Incentivizes people to group up and start taking out this priority target that's gotten this many stats from hunting down a bunch of other people. I feel like that might be a very interesting way to implement it potentially. And when you die, maybe you lose half those stats or 70% of those stats or something, even more.
Oh, I like it. It's like a benefit for going on a kill streak. I think if it was tied to titles too, it would work really well, because like people love that glowy title from RBF. So why not get something similar for open world?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, go ahead, Doug.
One concern with incentivizing kills and not discriminating, I do recommend that gear score
Cooldown
or
on it.
something like that of equal or higher or something like that to actually reward the bloodstone, because you have to find ways of looking at the other end of the coin with weaker players trying to get in the game. If the entry to PvP becomes higher and higher, then you disincentivize new population coming into the game, new blood getting interested and acquainted with the PvP system. That is also a concern with having too high of a karma cap. If you can just sort of punish newer players, although they could just spawn at town, a lot of people are not going to be of that mind. They would much rather be stubborn and continue contesting the spawn until you eventually run out of your entire karma pool or something like that. A lot of people are like that, and you have to think of a way, I guess, to make it feel not so agonizing and make it so that people don't get stubborn and refuse to engage in the PvP system as the developers intend.
Right. Or
Yeah,
get
I think
just unmotivated. You know, I mean, it's you do have to take care of the newer players in some sense because if you're grinding, you just get blown up in 2 skills every time you go to grind. I mean, I can totally understand how as a new player, especially in BDO when the game is so massive and it does have a large curve in the beginning, um, it would turn somebody off of the game with that much freedom. So I agree. You do have to be extremely careful with incentivizing PvP.
Yeah, you would need an internal cooldown on it too, so that you can't kill the same guy over and over again. And Layvan just meets me in the open field and farms me until he's got a full bloodstone.
Yeah, exactly.
Not saying you would do that. All right,
I mean, anybody would do that. If you had a stone that gave you, 20 AP, I would definitely go get my buddy and be like, "Hey, man, let me kill you 20 times real quick." Like, give me that 20 AP. Anybody would, right before Node War or anything like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the comment that yes, I totally agree. The comment that I saw earlier that I wanted to read was from Stillabic on Reddit, and he said this was in regards to being out farmed versus being killed for a grind spot, because I think he plays a witch or a wizard, and he said something like that doesn't mean that you should embrace it, and that doesn't mean that you should drop almost all restrictions and penalties for open world ganking. Why would you want to make that system even worse? I accept that my class is bad at 1v1 because I'm still good at clearing mobs fast, but right now pretty much the only thing that allows me to grind at all is the karma system, because if the penalties were negligible, then I would spend more time running back from node managers than actually killing mobs. So he was worried that if we made it, if the karma system was less punishing, that he would never get any time to grind. He would just be running back and forth, and he would go grind somewhere until someone pushes him out. It's like that meme we see all the time where a striker pulls up to a mage and just says spot taken or duel for spot, and then the mage just like puts his head down and walks away sadly without ever fighting. So it's a tough one. I don't know how to speak from that point of view because I've never played a witch or a wizard. I guess it's a very specific viewpoint for those two because the other fast farmers are generally pretty good at 1v1. To be honest, I'm probably just not great at the game, but I've fought many witches and wizards that are really good at 1v1. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a get good kind of thing or if it's legit like their only safety net for those classes is the karma system. What do you think?
Half and half. I mean, of course, even statistically, witches have been on the bottom of the 1v1 charts, but if you fought a good witch, you understand what a witch can do, and I've met many witches that can definitely hold their own. But in terms of, like I said, I completely agree that there needs to be restrictions in the karma system, and I don't want to like hurt or like penalize people trying to grind or have a hard time grinding or defending their spots. But if you're going to penalize the people who are going to go red, then if you're going to penalize them harshly for doing that, then at least have some positives outside of that instance, meaning outside of that open world PvP. Like if I'm going to kill somebody and risk, experience loss, crystal loss, item, disenchant level, like having one of my tets go to try or, anything like that, I'll accept all of those things. But at least let me, like kill the guards in towns, rather than being like just unforeseen gods that can teleport to you and hit you whenever. Or let me, give me some sort of bonus that I can take somewhere else. And, again, out of that fight. So I can't abuse that person, to a gross level, but give me pros somewhere else where it keeps it fair for them. And if I'm willing to go, that extra mile and go red, then reward me somewhere else.
Okay,
if that kind of makes sense.
Let's talk about going red for a second. I think if we're gonna have negative karma, it's not just there so that you can work yourself out of karma because you made a mistake and killed someone who you shouldn't have, but going permanently red. What if there was completely other side to the game where when you're going red and you're at a certain negative, so let's say more than negative, let's say it's a negative that you can't visibly see, but you're there or you've been perma red for so long at a certain amount of time, all of a sudden you can, like we have the negative karma town, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we not expand on that so that you have more content as a red player? Can you tell us a bit about the red town? I don't know anything about it. If either of you guys have been there, I have not. Mm-hmm. I went there once to talk to a couple NPCs to get knowledge. So yeah.
With the introduction of the tent, and especially the villas, the town is, I mean, completely useless and not necessary at all. I mean, I do understand that the tent is a $50 purchase. It's not on sale.
Yeah, it's more expensive than a real tent.
Of course, right? Yeah, it is, seriously. So, but basically, what the town has is it has a stable master, which you can still get to actually the stable master if you're positive, and then it also has, it has a storage keeper, it has repair, and it has general goods. So it has everything. Let's say, not even Old Wisdom Tree, because Old Wisdom Tree has the marketplace. So it has everything like Sarma Outpost does. It's basically a Sarma Outpost essentially, but with a storage keeper. And
so there's nothing special about it for you alone, like special quests that you can do or content that can give you stats or anything like that.
There's a red quest line, but it's just quest line for knowledge, and there's one, and it's not a whole lot of knowledge.
Sorry, just because it came off the top of my thoughts right now. What if there was a quest line in the red town that accessed a costume that you could get just for being red? So like kind of like the player costumes you have to buy now, but there was one for every class that's just for being negative, and the art style was very aggressive. I don't know, something like that. That seems very in line with something BDO would do. Yeah,
I mean, I'd be down for literally anything if they want to give red players, because there's nothing. I'd be cool if they shot me, like a plate of roasted turkey or something to have in my inventory. I don't know. Yeah, any kind of content for a negative player, or at least a player that's been negative for a certain amount of time would be like outstanding. Just anything, any content at all would be great. Because right now there's absolutely zero, except for one quest that you can do for the experience buff, and then like a story quest that's extremely linear and quick and not difficult. It's just a bunch of go find me quests, and then some storage in the desert. But again, you have villas, and I mean Valencia's right there. It's not that much. It's not that far of a run. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, so one last comment on it before we sum up Karma. I feel like we're all in agreement on Karma. Now that I've realized we've talked about it, no one has ever said like, "Oh, that's a horrible idea. I don't like it." Cool title would be cool, says Mini Buns. No one has said like, "No, don't make it better. Don't make it better for red people. Don't make it better so that you can't Karma bomb." Like everyone seems to be in agreement. I wonder, that makes me feel like it's just not on their radar. Like it's not as important to them as it should be. That and seeing new types of instanced gaming, like I know it's not actual PvP, but the Rift and then RBF, etc. Having that stuff out there always makes me feel like the game doesn't care about open world. That's why I like games like that actually pushed for open PvP. The one game I think that did it right, that had instance PvP but open world PvP, was Warhammer Online. It's a little bit of an older game. I don't know if either of you guys have played it. But if you killed someone in the open world, there was a chance for an item to drop, and it wasn't an item that dropped from their inventory. They didn't lose anything. You just had a chance to get a loot as if they were a mob kind of thing, and there was an internal cooldown on it, so you couldn't continuously farm the same person over and over again, but it would give you a reason to go out in PvP. And it was in Battlegrounds too, and in Battlegrounds you had full XP while you were PvPing as well. So you could literally start the game, do nothing but Battlegrounds. They were tiered, levels 1 to 10, 10 to 20, whatever, so that you weren't fighting people that were too overgeared and had more skills than you. They were also normalized to the top level of that tier. So if you were level 1, you fought at a level 9 level, like intensity for powers, etc. You wouldn't get more abilities, but the abilities you had would be level 9. And that allowed you to do nothing but PvP, get gear, get XP, and you could complete. That could be your whole game if that's what you wanted. I think something like that is important in a game that embraces instance PvP. I do not embrace instance PvP. I would rather, like I've said this a million times, I would much rather see us out in the open world just murdering each other and taking each other's stuff and us crying about it. That's what I would like, but not everyone wants that. So this middle ground feels too much like... It feels too much like a theme park MMO and not enough like a sandbox MMO to me. Okay, so sorry. Any last comments on that? Even from chat, if you want to hear anything else about going red, if you have any other ideas about the karma system before we move on to DrDog's topic.
I have like one more thing to add
Please.
in terms of the being red. I agree with everything that you just said, and I love open world PvP, and that's why I'm playing the game. And that's why I'm also red. But not only have they not had any content for red players for us to like, I say us, I think there's like three, but all three of us. But not only is there not content for us, but they even release content that is even more punishing for red players and pretty much essentially only for positive karma players. A good example for this is the Jinn crystals. So you introduce RNG crystals that are extremely difficult to get or extremely expensive that can break. So that's essentially an end game piece that is completely necessary to put in your gloves, the Jinn crystals for accuracy, so you can run more AP. But if you're a red player, there's no way you can run those in your gloves, because the second you die, those are going to be the first things to break, and you wasted a lot more than just 20 mil. I mean, you wasted upwards of 400 mil. That's what they're pre-ordering for instantly, and it's just insanely unfair for red players.
What if a red player could get a buff that allowed those crystals to not die in PvP? Like if you'd have to be perma red for a while, you'd have to do something to earn it. I don't know what, but then maybe it could be a potion where you drink and like for the next 2 hours, you can't lose a crystal to PvP.
That'd be cool. I was super excited for the fairies, because when they initially released the fairies, they just said no death penalty. The no death penalty fairy. They just said no death penalty fairy, and obviously in the costume, it says it has the 10% death penalty effect, and if that 10% goes off, you don't lose crystals. But like right before they release the fairies, they're like, death penalty fairy, but still break crystals. I'm like, oh my god. I was so upset because I thought I finally had my chance to if I died one time, that fairy would save me and I'd, get the F out and leave. But no, even the fairy doesn't make sense.
So Chad is saying that there's a Pearl Shop item that does that called Bandit's Blessing, that you can't lose crystals to PvP.
He might be saying that might be a possible implementation.
Or okay,
Yeah.
That's probably an implementation. I think that's why he's got the Kappa face going. Yeah, I think Pearl Shop would be kind of mean, but maybe a loyal. No, that was a joke. Okay.
The reason I think that maybe the karma system hasn't experienced any changes as of yet is potentially because generally Pearl Abyss balances around the KR meta, right? What the KR players feel, because that's their most direct line of feedback. And because the developers are just situated in that region, it might be the case that in the KR region, they just don't have these issues with karma bombing, with being really stubborn, not giving up their spot, or potentially maybe their gear curves are much easier because of potentially, some pay to win mechanics such as selling costumes for 80 mil pop or something like that. So maybe the newer player phase where you're not geared enough to try and contest your spot is significantly shorter of a time for them, or the attitude in general in the region just doesn't exist. Maybe that's why the karma system hasn't been touched as of yet, and maybe that's a case for us to have to bring it to their attention as a prominent and significant issue plaguing the game.
One sec, I have to change something on Discord. I'm trying to turn you up a little bit, Waddles, because they're finding you quiet. And I minimized the 1 second here. Sorry, give me one moment. Yeah, you can keep going chatting. I'm just going to do some technical stuff for a moment.
And in the DMs, I linked something that BDO was thinking about implementing, or Dom or Cacao was thinking about implementing in the game. That sounds really cool. Now, why they didn't implement this, I'm not really sure. And is this perfect? No, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction that they could have been going. And this was two years ago that they had this out and was attempting to implement, but never went through. And they had to just spit it off really quick. Basically, they had a rough bounty hunting system that they're going to implement, and then they had two separate types of negative karma players. Like if you were, negative 500,000 to -1, you didn't receive as rough as penalties. And then if you were, negative 1 million to negative 500,000, they had super rough penalties. But you could still get certain debuffs and buffs for doing so. And
Oh.
if you want to link that in Twitch chat, you can, so people can take a look at it for themselves.
Yeah, if you want to put it into our group chat, I'll link it. Is that it right there?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks, Doc. Yeah, it kind of makes me think of there was the old Star Wars MMO had the thing where you could actually become a Jedi, and when you were really powerful, but when you died once, it was gone, and I think you either had to re-roll or you weren't a Jedi anymore, and you were like a ghost, and the character was dead. So they were pretty brave in creating something very permanent. But there would be I wouldn't go that far, but something along the lines of what we said earlier, where let's say if you went like really heavy into the red and you were very much a criminal, you had some PvP buffs, some actual like temporary AP, DP, accuracy, whatever buffs, maybe ones you could even choose. But once someone killed you, it was gone, or once you were out of that negative red area, it was gone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. All right, cool. That's pretty much it we got for karma. I think we could probably talk about it forever. But our topic number 2, which I really like, and I do not have a lot of experience on it, and that's why we have DrDog here, is the Renown system. Now, if you want, DrDog, before we get started and you talk about what we think is wrong with the Renown system, why don't you just give us a quick synopsis of what it is for those players like myself that are only in the 540 mark?
Right. So the Renown system, where it comes into prominence, is around the ranges of 245 and higher character sheet AP, what is displayed in your character page. What happens within this range is that every 4 AP levels you increase, you reach another Renown bracket. These Renown brackets give a increasing AP bonus that applies. It doesn't apply to your sheet, so obviously it doesn't dip, but essentially what it is a large bonus in damage to try and combat the diminishing returns of AP, because each point of AP, when you're at 200 AP and you get 10 AP, that's a 5% damage increase, because 210 over 200. When you're at 300 AP and you get a 10 AP increase, that's only a 3.3% increase in damage. So every point of AP you have more, it diminishes. I believe that's why they implemented this system. It's, however, between the ranges of 245 and 269, an exponential increase in AP per 4 AP brackets. Other than that, the Renown score calculated from your total gear score, what was previously your main hand AP plus your awakened AP divided by 2, so the average of the 2 APs, plus your DP. The higher gear score or Renown score you have, the more increasing damage reduction returns you get. I believe this one's a little bit more linear, but that's sort of beside the point. Essentially, at around 570 or so gear score, which is quite a few items above soft cap, you can get upwards of about 75 or 80 DR, which is the equivalent of DR of about 4 pen cadre rings.
Oh shit.
So it's a bit of a hefty bonus.
It's basically
that's why
almost
people,
a whale 10 elixir. God.
That's why people are stacking pure AP, because it's not just giving them AP. I mean, it's giving them exponential AP, but it's also giving them defense.
Yes, AP now gives DP.
Yep. And I believe the reasons they implemented this system was to combat the one-shot meta, the one combo meta where people were too squishy. But it scales with more AP and DP, so
it's not. It's only hurting itself at this point. Okay, so I just recently hit the 245 AP mark. Yeah, it was a big deal for me. It felt good to get that extra 68 AP if you count everything together. And it's also causing some ruckus in PvE as well. Ruckus, how old am I? In PvE as well, because people are not using their kudums. If you could explain this.
So
I think you don't use yours, right?
Yeah, no, I actually don't use my kudum. I don't know which one is exactly more efficient, but it honestly feels like Nuver.
Yeah, it should be Nuver.
Yeah, it feels like it's better at my AP level. Let me try and bring up the chart here. Essentially, the reason
you hit that button
using Nuver is because
Thanks for the follow.
The AP gain is so exponential that at 261 sheet AP, you get a bonus AP of 101 sheet. The Kudum PvE damage at Tet, I believe, is only 53 monster damage, something like that.
Thanks,
and it's
Hanbao.
also 12 sheet AP less. So even if PvE damage or PvE AP is 1-to-1, with universal AP, the Renown score bonus far exceeds that in quite an excess, because what would that be? 261 minus 12. So you'd get a 57 AP bonus from the Kudum and a 101 from the Nuver. At that point, the difference is approaching that of the PvE bonus of Nuver. And there is word that it might not be implemented correctly in that the Kudum PvE damage AP might be implemented in a separate pool, which means it's checking
Thanks,
against
Black AF Jamal, for the
way.
follow. It'll pop up in a second.
Some players know the less AP you have, you reach a point
You hit that button.
enemy's DR where it actually becomes a logarithmic scaling. It's flat, and then it becomes linear at some point when you have enough AP to breach past their DR. If you have a 200 AP and a 53 AP applying separately to DR, that does less damage than 253 AP in one pool. And that's why some people are using Nuver in PvE, because it is possible that it's doing more damage at those AP levels.
Especially with the removal of the AP soft cap on mobs as well.
Oh yeah, true. So I see another problem. This is sort of an aside to what you're saying, but it's relevant. The other problem with, I think, the Renown system scaling too high at the top end is that so this is a game where there's almost no variety in build. There is no variety in build. And so we're already gender locked. We're already weapon locked, meaning you can't choose different weapons. You don't have a pool of stats to choose from and divide up like you do in other games. Like, you are exactly the same as everybody else, except for maybe your costume. And we're feeling pigeonholed into AP only. I do think the game is pushing towards, hopefully pushing away from that, or else why would we even have the other sets
You
of
hit
gear?
that button.
Thanks for the follow, Frosty. But it's to the point where the other sets of gear, the other types of the other stats, being evasion, etc., are just they're not measuring up. So the counter to that I see with the game development is that the game has been adding, video has been adding the CC change is what I'm trying to get at. The fact that soon, hopefully, we will not be getting CC'd off of every single hit. And then what that does is it makes all of those resist crystals actually viable for a build. So let's say you're playing a ninja and your particular playstyle, because of the evasion gear that you use or whatever, your biggest weakness is one particular type of CC. It would be nice to know that you could go spend the time and the effort and the money to put those crystals in, and you could create a playstyle your own. I like that that's happening. I really hope that's what they're expecting to happen with the resist gems. But none of that will matter if AP is still outscaling DP and evasion and everything else. So everyone has ideas, but I know you have a lot of thoughts on the matter, DrDog. So why don't you tell us how you would change the Renown system? And if you want to put any of your links, because I know you made some really cool charts, by the way, these are amazing. Please feel free to put them in chat.
So right now, the way Renown scaling works is it's a roughly exponential scaling up to around 269 AP. Where at 269, you gain 137 bonus AP. Each 4 AP bracket, a couple of them below that. For example, 264 to 265 gives 21 AP. 268 to 269 gives 15 AP bonus. So that 4 AP sheet gives you almost triple or quadruple the return of each point of AP. Now, that idea is fine, but as it is implemented, the issue with BDO mechanics is that you have 2 types of protection. You have damage reduction and you have frontal guards. Super armor and frontal guards. Super armor provides damage reduction, so it's sort of just like a linear application of reducing the damage incoming. But frontal guard is something that, if applied correctly, you should not be CC'd and you should not be taking damage. When you reach the AP point where you can break someone's frontal guard, it doesn't allow for counterplay, because if you can break their frontal guard, you can kill them through super armor. If you can't mitigate the damage besides iframes, which very, very few classes have enough of to actually fight with,
especially now,
with only iframes.
Especially now is what I was saying to the iframes.
Yeah, absolutely. Then it applies no counterplay. In a 1v1 when you're greatly outgeared, and not even greatly outgeared, I guess, with like 20 AP over soft cap, it is a lot, but compared, like the actual number itself doesn't seem like a lot. But the difference is night and day. You can one-shot them, and they can barely scratch you right now, especially with the Renown score bonus. So my proposal is that right now, if I charted it out, essentially, to counter the diminishing returns of AP itself, where each point of AP is worth less and less damage, you actually only need about a third of the AP of what we currently have from the Renown bonus. If they tone down the ratio of bonus from what it is now to maybe 1/2 or 1/3 of it, a factor within that range of what it is currently, it still rewards gear bonuses. When you're pushing past soft cap, you spend on the order of tens of billions of silver per point of AP. So it still rewards you. It still gives a lot of AP, but it's not to the point where when you get attacked by a player like that, right now, when you get attacked like a player like that, it's probably between 260 and 270. I'm still getting one shot anyways. I can't really tell. Now, if they tone it down like that, it'll still feel stronger. You'll still realize that they're higher AP and they will still have a gear advantage, but it still allows for counterplay, especially in a system when a lot of CCs and a lot of super armors are removed. You lack the potential to combo somebody down consistently. When you can't combo someone down, you rely on damage trades. If your damage trades are that unequal, there's no chance of winning. So although the class balance is closer with the new CC changes, the gear disparity gets larger, and that's going to be a significant issue in the future, I feel.
I agree. Especially with...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, especially with like exactly what Dog said, especially with the lack of super armors from front guards now. If you have a DK with 267 or AP rather, you're gonna die. Like I thought, I believe the DK is called Moodwin. They're Moodwin.
Yep.
I fought Moodwin. I had about 300 DP. I could be holding block, or in complete super armor, one attack and it just 100 to 0, and then the next attack health 100 to 0. And I had to play literally only using iframes, and Desync doesn't like iframes, so it led to a lot of deaths. So I would definitely enjoy being able to at least survive when I'm in a super armor. My limited super armors that I have, or my limited, or my half block. Yeah, I agree with Dog completely.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Especially as classes now only have 3 or 4 super armors and frontal guards total in pre-awaken, your protections should keep you safe. You shouldn't be out traded and murdered when they're just throwing damage at you, and you're perfectly using your protections over and over, perfectly frontal guarding, perfectly mitigating and trading damage, and you still lose 100% of the time because of the gear disparity of somebody who might have potentially even one-tapped, gotten very lucky with all of their TED accessories that wouldn't really cost them anything. And so this lucky player who doesn't know what they're doing in PvP can kick your ass when you've put in thousands of hours of practice. You've tried your best with gear, but you're getting maybe average luck, even below average. There's nothing you can do about that, and it feels bad.
So I think a lot of people are in agreement that it scales too high at the top end, and that even a small bonus is still enough for people will still want it as much, even a small bonus. I think I saw one post on that thread where I was saying that it scales too high, and it was one person. It was one particular Zerker that has really high AP. I'm not going to say who was like a little pissed that people want to take away his AP. And I think that I think the amount of people that have that standpoint to the amount of people that are like, look, I'm already in, like, we're talking to DrDog who you have the highest AP of anybody I know, and you're not saying no, please don't take it away from me. So there needs to be a potential to outplay people that are not as good as skilled as you are. Like, I will fully admit that I am gear carried. I play a Tamer, which is kind of a hard class. It's not as hard as a Ninja, but like I'm pushing 40 next September. Happy birthday, Jen. I'm probably the oldest BDO streamer, if not one of the oldest BDO players. Yay. And I don't have the reaction speed that I had when I was a kid. I know that I don't. So I see people outplaying me. Like, I know it right away when I'm like, that guy always has my back, and I'm still killing him because of my Renown score. Like he's trying so hard. It's like my little brother trying to pick on me. He's 10 years younger than me. He's trying so hard. He's practiced all of his skills, but one backhand drops him to the ground and he's crying. Not saying this really happened. So I totally agree with you. I think most people agree with us on this note. My question is, why is it not done yet? What is it about BDO's business model or current state of the game that makes them think that this was a good idea and that they're not immediately backtracking? Are they that far removed from how to balance their game? Like, it seems that way if you go onto the Reddit, but my gosh, the Reddit is so negative. And of all the MMOs I've played since, like, for the last 20 years, I've not seen one that has a higher percentage of shit posts and meme posts compared to actually informative posts than I have in BDO. I haven't seen that. And I feel like it is directly proportional to the amount of flack that players go through, the amount of emotional torture that players go through to get better gear in this game. Because what the RNG system puts you through, that makes you need to vent. That's just my thought. That's what I think they're doing, and I don't begrudge anyone venting that shit. But if you have to work that hard to upgrade your gear, and then someone else gets lucky and they're given an invisible stat that stacks with other stats that stack with other stats that you can barely comprehend as a new player, and you can't even hit them, it just confuses everything for everyone, and then it makes the gap between new players and old players way too big. So why is it even there? How does it help the business model of BDO? Why am I scratching my head? Like, why am I so confused? Can help me find the answer to this question.
It's definitely a little bit confusing because, I mean, kind of tied in with the karma system. They make the game, they're trying to make it welcoming for new players. They're trying to make it to where they can come, they can contest, or, they get a little bit of a boost when they're trying to gear up, or and things of that nature. But in the same respect, they're absolutely just immensely buffing the larger gear people as well. So not only are they helping trying to help the smaller gear, but then in retrospect, they're just making that goal even more unreachable as well. So it's like I don't know. It's like they're trying to fix two separate problems with the same solution, in a sense, in one like cluster shot.
It makes me very confused as to where this game's vision is. I honestly don't know what it wants out of itself.
I think their intention was good in that they want to reward the players who have pushed so far past soft cap. They want to give them something that doesn't make it so that they're spending 10 billion silver for like
1 AP,
3 AP.
Yeah. It was a very, very minimal bonus. You could still sort of feel he's probably between 250 and 300 AP, somewhere along those lines. It feels like he hits harder, but I'm not so sure. Maybe he's just a good player. But maybe the reason they implemented it the way they did in KR is because maybe the vast majority of PvPing player base is above 245 AP. So in our servers, we have a bunch of players. I would say that the gear score average across most of the PvP population is actually closer to about 480, maybe 500 AP. I would imagine in KR it would be a lot higher, maybe closer to 530, closer to soft cap. So there are a lot of players, maybe like 10, 20, even 30% of the high-end PvP player base who are benefiting from these changes and who need something as a reward for how much money and effort and time they're throwing into the game. The issue you run into with that is that the new player base is, as you mentioned, greatly discouraged when they're getting one shot by one single skill from a player who hasn't even outplayed them at that point. It's just, you look at them, you breathe out, and then they fall over. So that problem, I think, is exasperated even more on our servers because we don't quite have the pay-to-win mechanics. We don't have the silver income per hour that we have, that the other regions have. Like KR Russia, there are players out there with over 305 AP.
Yeah.
The most pen accessories on a single player in our server, I think, is one, maybe two. There's Gundel has one pen crescent.
Yeah.
He's
32 bill.
He has 285 AP. He's 15. He's more than 15. He's like 20 AP short of that Russian streamer. I think is like Manjack. Or there's another one as well there's multiple people with over 300 AP, which is 2 pen crescents, pen ogre, maybe even pen belt, and missing like 1 or 2 pen accessories, and everything else is pen. It's
That's how KR is also. I think he's only missing like 1 or 2 pens.
yeah. So that's like that timeline of progression. One pen item is average craft cost. The cheapest pen accessory is 40 bill. You can farm maybe 8 bill a month if you're really going at it. Each item is 5 months progression. So these servers are 2, 3, 4 years ahead in
How
average
much
progression
longer?
compared to us.
Sorry, how much longer has KR been open over NA?
1 year?
Is 1 year? So
Yeah.
do you think it's the year, or do you think it's their pay to win aspect that people could buy to advance a lot faster there?
It's probably both.
Yeah,
Combo.
they have Valk's Cry, they have the premium accounts, they have the PC Vong accounts, they have, of course, just more time, and as of right now, and they usually have the just overall content coming out a lot faster than them as well, which boosts them with Dragon and the surefire now attempts to pen their weapons and armor with the stones that came out as well, are just pushing them ahead even more.
I believe they also have in their value pack. I've heard that they get a certain amount of daily item increase scrolls, the ones that we have on very, very special events. The ones that increase your loot per hour by 50%.
Yeah, the loot scrolls.
Don't they get one with their 200% every day as well? They get like a 1 hour.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that.
And they also get
their silver per hour is a lot higher than ours, which means that their net silver in the economy is also higher. I've seen people in KR with just casually like a bunch of TET or backup boss items, like their entire Velia storage is full of gold items, all enhanced with hundreds of thousands of hearts and sharps.
Like casual
and on
players.
Top of all that, yeah, like 50 billion silver on top of all of that.
So I would like to say something about that. So having the experience that I have, I've played a lot of MMOs. And I will tell you that you guys may know this. This is just me being like, back in my day, uphill both ways, etc. But in every game that I've played, MMOs, even offline RPGs, when I got to that point where there was nowhere else to go, a little bit of the game died for me. It especially happens in MMOs when you get to a point where there's nowhere left to go, when you get the top end gear. Even there's still PvP, yes, but a little bit of the game dies for you. So I'm not jealous of people with better gear than me. But on the other side, I definitely do wish that this game that has fighting game mechanics would allow me to outplay my opponents at times. I don't know, like we've got a guy in our guild. I want to do a huge shout out to Frozen Bacon. If you ever get to see this guy on a Valk in the arena, he logs in and the first thing he says in guild is like, "So who wants to duel?" And then he's in the battle arena and he's just there 1v1ing everybody all day. He's basically turned into Bastion's meat grinder. If you need to get better at PvP, you show up in the arena and you fight this guy. And his personal gain in this game is just you can do exclamation point gear if you want to see my gear dog. His gain in the game is just getting better at 1v1ing people in PvP, and you know it, and it's good. But I think we could all have that, and I think we could be incentivized to spend more time just getting better at PvP if we didn't have that jaded feeling where, oh, he got luckier than me and I absolutely can't outplay him. I don't get jealous of people with better gear, and I would love to fight an uphill battle. That's okay with me. I personally believe that I'm always fighting an uphill battle when I'm playing these games because I find most people are better than me, but I don't want it to be impossible. So totally agree. Were there any other revamp issues or ideas with the Renown system that you have besides scaling it back a bit? Is it just scaling it back 2/3 at the top end or the whole way through?
Right. It should be scaled the whole way through to some degree. The exponential scaling is okay. I would think that maybe make them more accessible AP, or maybe make it just linear the whole way through, because every AP point you get. Although, to be fair, the diminishing returns.
Wouldn't the diminishing returns be the same? Yeah.
It's pretty hard. So maybe the exponential scaling is fine, but the whole thing should be lowered by some factor at least. The issue you run into with that is that the DR becomes too much. It becomes very difficult to kill players when you can't reliably combo them, when there's not enough AP and everyone's getting that DR, so you have to scale that back as well. The removal of the one-shot meta is fine as long as it's not creating a larger and larger gear disparity. I think the scaling of DR with more gear score should start much earlier and level off much faster. Right now, it seems like you get 5 every certain number of gear score, and so it's linear the whole way through. Maybe if they made it the same way as AP, where it goes exponential scaling up to maybe 500 gear score, 450, 500 gear score, and then levels off, so there's still reward, but it's much less pronounced for going that high, especially because AP also scales with the DR.
Yeah, especially with the classes like Valkyrie and Warrior that already have insane DR, so they can just build heavy AP, and it's essentially like they're stacking on, more DP.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds you guys have actually pointed out something that I haven't thought about, and that's the scaling is basically just centered around KR and not here, and that's why there needs to be some kind of algorithm that just takes into play where the region's at right now, where the median gear score for the region is, and like let's say about 20% behind that is where the highest amount of scaling is, as opposed to beyond that is where the highest scaling is, and then we have a 1%er. Like, no offense to Vert, but if you've ever watched his stream, like he does poke moves and people's armor and their frontal guard just disappears. It's frightening, and I don't believe that he didn't earn that. That's a double negative, by the way. He did earn that, but I don't think the reward should be that high. And I guess we're all in agreement. It's a win-win. So in your mind, would your perfect version of BDO be incentivized open world, maybe a bloodstone, some kind of quest or bonus that would give you power based on being perma red, but having something that maybe it can't even be monetized, but something that could be taken away from you. So an incentivization to open world PvP as a perma red and a non-perma red player, and a lot less scaling in the AP high end of the Renown system, allowing us to have more build variants and more chance for outplay. Does that sound right to everybody so far?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we're all daydreaming about the same thing, but then we get thrown bonus round. Here's the bonus round, guys. The bonus round is just this week. This game, we are in a huge state of flux right now.
Oh god.
We're in, right. Like almost sick of talking about it, to the point where sometimes people we have like these different minds in my Discord where some people are like, dude, just stop talking about it, wait and see. Where other people are like, my feelings matter. I'm hurt right now and I want to say, like, I'm the my feelings matter person, by the way. I'm not making fun of someone. That's I want people to express themselves, because right now all my protection's gone. When I do a cloud stomp, I die before it ends. I don't know if you guys have seen those cool Tamer videos of Tamers doing their cloud ride and then they just land dead because their super armor has been destroyed, but during their what used to be an iframe. So is this going to be fixed on Tuesday? Am I going to stop crying?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I mean, I see where they're getting at, in terms of they're trying to simplify everything, but at the same time they're trying to make everything in BDO be a war, in the sense of it has an extremely low floor, a super low skill floor, but a decently high skill ceiling, with removing all the frontal guards and super armor and whatnot from all the classes, and especially with them trying to take away the one-shot meta. It's kind of like, I don't know if DrDog, did you play back in the day when it was like, plus 15 was the highest your gear could go?
Not quite that late. I started a couple months before the merge.
Okay. So like back when you fought in PvP back then, when plus 15 gear was like the best, like there was no such thing as pry, didn't even exist. Fights lasted like a lot longer, and they were a lot more fun.
I'm really curious. I was going to say, how did they feel? But it sounds like you're about to tell me that. Yeah, how did they feel when they were lasting longer?
Yeah, they fights lasted a lot longer, and they felt much more intense. Much more. That you always felt like you had a chance. No matter, not necessarily no matter the gear score, but like you could be, a decent amount of gear score off, and it was still a heavy fight. And if you were the same gear score, it was just every fight you had was like a heavy fight, and you had to know your class. And you had to play it well, and it just made PvP a lot more fun. And then, with the new addition to Tri, Tet, Pen, just everything like that, and all the new accessories, AP just got higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. But the skills didn't necessarily change, and everything just became, oh, I CC'd you first, you're dead. It's just a CC battle. Who gets CC'd first? That's the meta, and what they're trying to
CC means crowd
create,
control.
where
Right.
there's now super armor gaps in the classes, and frontal guard gaps, or just gaps in general of the classes. Because like warriors, you cannot tell me that warriors were not completely busted with their or mystics or strikers were a little bit easier because they're a little bit immobile, but when they cast their abilities, but like warriors and mystics with their lingering super armor and their infinite super armor chains, if you're going against an extremely skilled warrior or somebody who's mastered that chain, especially if you're a DK and you don't have just an infinite amount of AP, or a Meiwa, or somebody without a grab, you're done. You can't do anything at all. Or and so me as a ninja, and I'm speaking as a ninja, and as a ninja, I don't have any. I already had a huge lack of super armor. I already had a huge lack of frontal guard. I already played as if I had no protection because I basically don't. So like I'm kind of laughing at all the memes that warriors are throwing into like Reddit and stuff like, oh, this is how I engage in large scale now. And they're like, oh, you mean you're not just like applying super armor and then like just shoving yourself into the middle of everyone on the enemy team, throwing a gravedigger down and maybe a few other abilities, and then just super armoring out completely unscathed. Like I could never do that, So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like
ninjas have been begging for frontal on Murderous Intent for not Murderous Intent. Sorry, oh
Serpent's
my God,
Ascension.
Serpent's Ascension for a long time. So I totally get what you're saying. I think everybody, and not to pick on warriors at all, I do feel like warriors and Valks were really, really high up there in the 1v1, and they also I've always been jealous of, and you guys can actually, we're part of a club, the three of us. I don't know if you guys know this. That club is the club of selfish classes. So what do I mean by that is we're all selfish bastards. No, we play classes that have finesse, but have strengths in 1v1, but not as much in GVG. I know DrDog has some AoE and some range, so maybe he's half and half, halfway in and halfway out of that. But I have always looked at warriors, strikers, Valks with a little bit of jealousy. Not so much witches and wizards, only because I don't like range and I don't like wearing a dress when I'm playing video games. So what that means to me is that I've always looked at the bruiser classes with a little bit of jealousy, and I want to know, am I just playing grass is greener on the other side, or does this game favor bruisers and ranged over us finesse players?
It absolutely does. So I have a Valk character, level 60, got full tet weapons on it. I played a Mystic, and I also played a Ranger and a Musa. So Musa is a little bit more protected than the other glass cannon classes because of all of their previous super armor rotations. But when I was playing my Valk, I had no idea what I was doing. I just sort of, shuffled in with my permanent super armor dash with my lingering super armors. I took a bunch of damage, and then I pressed F, my ultimate key. I pressed my vacuum, my crit buff, and then I pressed F.
Okay.
Consistently in every RBF that I did, I got hundreds, well over 300 points, pretty much every single RBF. I had no idea what I was doing. I actually didn't use any other skills. This was
Okay.
This was even after patch, after they removed their lingering super armors. But I imagine that a Valk who actually knows how to utilize their class and knows how the lingering super armor mechanics works will never be CC'd. And that's a huge issue when you have a class that does medium to decent damage, is incredibly tanky, has good utility, and also you can't stop them. You can't stop them from casting their abilities. Even if you can kill them, the damage is already done. Same with Warrior, same with Mystic. And I think the major issue, I'd like to disagree with you currently, Layvan, because I think the major issue is that there are too many CCs and too many super armors with the advent of Awakening, too many protections. That meant that every class onwards released, starting with DK, had to get more and more powerful, more safe, more CCs, and more mechanics to integrate themselves in the meta, to make people re-roll to them. Because when you look at it, DK has a lot of iframes, a lot of protection and range. Striker has even more protection, magic damage resistance, even more damage. a myriad of CCs. And then Mystic was the pinnacle. Mystic
Yeah,
literally had almost
everything.
every single super armor. Yep. CCs on everything. Great CCs that work through iframes.
A vacuum, yeah.
Yeah.
Put your weapons away, even, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
God, I hated that.
think that the removal of CCs and super armors, they're removing CCs next week. They're removing,
Nice.
they
I'm so
removed
excited.
super armors already. Although they did it in a half patch, they really should have released this at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally agree. Yeah.
This sort of brings us back to a similar form to Pre-Awakened, where unprotected abilities are viable. Skills without CC that are just for damage, for fillers, it's possible to use them because not every skill that you run into is going to CC. Skills like for Dark Knight, for example, for Unveiled Dagger and Hidden Strike, those two skills are no longer viable because they don't move you that much. They have no protection, and they have a stiffness and a stun, but they're very short range.
Mhm.
If you can actually use unprotected abilities like their super armors, because there aren't that many CCs, I would imagine that we would get closer to the previous Pre-Awakened combat where it's more positionally focused, so you can avoid damage entirely, which
Mhm.
also helps with latency, with lag, with desync issues like that. And you have to apply, although again it increases the gear gap, you can't fully combo someone down, you can't lock them down
Right.
as readily. If they implement it correctly, which is a big if they
Yeah.
remove the
Yeah.
right CCs on classes and keep the class balance close, I am very hopeful. I'm
No,
just
me too. Mhm.
that they did it this way, that they removed super armors first at a point where many players are already frustrated with all of the changes with their decisions, having to relearn the class as well as all of the previous changes before that. I think that's what made the situation come to a head.
Do you feel like the game has taken a hit this week?
Oh yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, like heavily.
Yeah. I've felt it, like even grinding it, like with this event that we have going right now, Saucon should be super contested. Like let's not kid ourselves. If I can make 30 plus mil an hour there just by extracting the stones, and the stones that we're getting, I know I have maids and inventory, but there should be a lot of people there. I've only 3 or 4 times because I'm knee deep in Pillars of Eternity right now while I'm kind of stepping back from the game to see what happens next week. But I would say about 7 or 8 hours I've done of grinding this week, I've seen nobody on multiple channels. So I think the game is taking a bite. I'm actually happy about it because I want that to make them go, oh shit, we got to speed this up. People are probably spending less pearls. I know I'm not. I'm like, no offense to the game. I've thrown it some money and I will probably throw it a lot more, but I'm not right now because it's in flux and I don't want to relearn the game this week and then relearn it next week and then relearn it the week after. I don't know. My worry is that these changes are going to be overshadowed by the Renown system, that the Renown system isn't going to get better, and that even with these changes, it's just going to be a one-shot and or damage trading meta, and that CC is going to become a thing of the past, and all we really did was dumb down the game and dumb down combos and remove crowd control instead of making the game more reactive. My positive side, my more positive side is hoping that this game becomes more positional, like DrDog said. I love mobility, and there's so much mobility in this game. There's animation cancels, which you'd never see in an MMO, or at least I've never seen in it before. And I'm excited to see, when you watch a player, like the first time I played a Zerker, I was bad at the animation cancels, and I looked clunky, and then I watched someone else do it. You can see that difference. You can see that difference when you look at someone who's good at the movement animation cancels compared to someone who's bad. When I watch Layvan and when I watch Mazap RBF. If you guys have seen Mazap RBF, that's all he does. And he's not looking for a grab combo. He's not looking for the cheese combo, that one combo he's memorized. He's moving on the fly at all times and never stopping. That stuff is the most exciting part of this game, the movement combinations and the movement animation cancels. I hope we get to the point where that is where we can all beat people. That's where we can outplay people, is by just dancing around them and then kicking their butt. But right now, I feel like I'm going to be a butterfly dancing around an elephant who takes one big punch at me and I just die. So I don't know. All these changes could be for naught. That's my worry.
I'm
I don't
hopeful.
know if we agree with that.
I mean, they're making strides. The thing that would just make this all better is if they just would stop being secretive and just be open with what they're thinking. I mean, it's really cool that they've always been like that. They've always, I mean, the whole game's been like that ever since it was created. You know, back when the game was first created, every single person who made a character in the game had different health stats, different WP stats, and like just different like stats like to their character.
Jesus.
And yeah, and when NA found that out, they just flipped out. They just went absolutely crazy, and they fixed it. And I mean, and look at right now, everybody and their mother is making videos on YouTube about how to get, you know, your Renown up in a region so you can get that +5 score, you know, +5 Renown score, because people are just now finding out about it. You know, it's really cool, and I mean that's I have a secret love for that. I love how it's difficult game. There's a lot of hidden knowledge, but with things like this, you know, huge patches they're going to implement, or their ideas and what they need to change, they either need to do it all at the same time, so we're not just like sitting here like I don't know what to do with my hands, or they need to like let us know what they're going to do, and so we can try to connect and see what's coming. But I personally love the changes. I mean, I like the changes. I like they're getting rid of super armor chains, like infinite super armor chains. I think it's a good direction. Is it perfect? No. And does it need to be fixed? Yes. But it's a good direction, and I'm all for it. So
Yeah, that's
Nice.
absolutely
Yeah,
my
me too.
favorite attitude. Their intentions, what they state they want to fix, are usually always on point. They're actually very, very accurate to what the players want, or what they say they want. I'm not sure, depending on but the way they put it into the game, in terms of timeline, in terms of implementation, always leaves something to be desired. It feels like there's been weeks upon weeks of just like I see what you're trying to do there, but it's not quite right.
yeah.
It feels like they're swinging one way or the other way too much, and I guess maybe they're overcorrecting. I imagine the reason they put in this patch in half measures is so that they could get player feedback across the week, but that's what a test server is for. That's what perspective, like saying these are the changes we're going to make next week exactly. I imagine they're doing it as they go, so that's probably not possible, but the way they're using us to test these changes at a point where so many players are already frustrated with the gear disparity, with the new classes coming out being completely overpowered, and other class imbalances, it just feels like too much. I can completely understand why people are quitting because of it.
Yeah, if they're gonna use us as test dummies, okay, but for the love of God, like compensate us for doing so, like leaving the koi up,
Absolutely.
or give us something. It's literally pixels to them. Like it's a multi-billion-dollar company. Give us some free video game stuff, okay? Like nobody's gonna care. Make us happy, because it'll make us happy, and while you use us as test dummies, and we'll happily oblige. But they don't even do that.
Earlier, someone said, "Look, Arsh is shit. Just turn that into your test server." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." I mean, I could have. I think a lot of this could be fixed with. Maybe they don't have the hindsight. Maybe they really don't, because there's layers of communication. They're playing the telephone. I just hit my desk. I think you guys heard that. Layers of communication. They're playing the telephone game with us because we are in North America. We are in Toronto. So what I mean by that is that like when they say something, by the time it gets to us, it's like, how many times have we made fun of just the spelling on the website? Like there was that guy who made that post that said comma Sylvia, and then it showed all the different ways that they've misspelt it on their own website. So what I guess we could have a little bit of sensitivity towards how difficult it is for them to communicate. But my Lord, they would save and make so much more money. They would save so many customers and keep so many people if they just hired a good communicator. If I was on that team and someone told me that you are our go-to communicator for NA, my post to everybody in the game would have been something like, look, over the next week, things are going to be painful because we're doing half now, half later. I want you to know this is happening now, and I want you to know it's going to be painful, but I want you to know the reason why we're doing it is because we want to get rid of the one-shot meta. We really care about you. That's our focus. This week, please enjoy an extra set of 2 fairy petals for everybody every morning when they log in, or something similar to what you said, Layvan. You know, something to make them happy that doesn't cost me anything. I think that would alleviate a lot of our concerns. There would be a lot of people that are less angry. I mean, listening to the Discords that I've been in over the last week, they're all like, I'm going to private servers. I'm quitting. I'm going to go play something else. I'm playing Pillars of Eternity. Like Pillars of Eternity is such a good game. So if if I don't know, do you guys agree if that communication, like if they might not be able to do everything better, but if only they cleaned up their communication, we would all be a little bit more comfortable. We'd be a bit happier taking this shit sandwich that we're eating all week.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the last 2 dev diaries were the best dev diaries I've ever seen out of BDO in the 2 years that it's been a thing. Like, they must have hired a new guy. The old guy got fired or left. I don't know, because the last 2 dev diaries were pretty on point. I got what he was trying to put out. He or she was trying to put out, and it was cool. But it was still too little, too late.
It really is. I mean, it's just odd when we take so last week I was lucky enough to have BDO Blue here, and look at that one guy. Like, he revealed all the hidden stats to us. I fully believe the game has changed because of the work that he did, or just like the post he made, whatever. And he was still permabanned for it. This communication is weird in this game, I guess is all I'm trying to say. All right, guys. Yeah, it's so secretive. I know sometimes that's kind of cool. It's like finding secrets, but those secrets shouldn't be like the stats of your character. Those secrets shouldn't be like not when you are literally entering a casino with real money to find out what those secrets are with your gear. Like, I don't know. The RNG thing is one thing, and it looks like they're about to make it easier with what do they call it? Caphras energy.
Yeah. I like that idea. Right? I'm looking forward to those stones. I think it's a cool addition to the game.
Yeah, I mean, they need a money sink in this game. One of the things I'm very happy about the foresight of this game is that it has a fixed economy. If it wasn't for that fixed economy, there would be like 1%ers like crazy in the marketplace, and none of us would be able to afford anything except for the billionaires. Anyway, I'm running off on a tangent. I think we've hit both of our topics pretty strongly. Before I say my closing, I just want to say do you think there's anything else we're missing from the karma system? Anything else we're missing from the Renown system that you guys wanted to talk about?
That just about covers it.
Yeah.
Nothing that I can think of.
Yeah, it was a good discussion.
Yeah, I liked it. I want to thank you both for coming here. Look, I make no illusions that I am a small-time streamer who doesn't have the audience that you guys do. So honestly, everyone in chat, big props to these guys for actually taking the time out to come and talk to me. That shows a lot of respect, and I really appreciate it. Make sure, if you haven't seen their streams, let's be honest, if you're here, you've seen their streams, that you go and check them out. I would like to give both of you guys a moment. Let's start with Layvan. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where your content is, what you like to do, your schedule, and maybe if you have any plans of anything coming up in the future, please share it with us.
Okay. Yeah, I stream on Saturdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays. I plan on streaming more throughout the week. And I also do YouTube as well. I started off on YouTube, actually.
Didn't you do like you were doing bounties on YouTube, right?
Yeah, that was my basically like Life of a Perma-Red Player was like my first video, and then my second video was about how I bounty hunt, and then the rest just kind of took off from there. So I do bounty hunting on stream.
What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It is Layvan, just Layvan.
Okay, cool.
And but yeah, and I do bounty hunting on stream. PvP, again, I'm a Perma-Red player. The longest standing Perma-Red player that I'm aware of. I've played since closed beta 1. And my gear is still awful.
Yeah, I like seeing what you do with your gear. That's that always makes me happy. I mean, you're kind of pigeonholed into doing it because you're Perma-Red, but it is pretty cool.
Yeah, just plan up streaming more video, variety streams on Sundays, and just looking forward to being a part of a good community.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely be seeing you in your chat as usual, and thank you so much for taking your time out. DrDog, you too.
Yep. So I have a Twitch channel, DrDog MD on Twitch. Essentially, it's like a 50-hour Q&A session a week. I have 2 break days, Monday and Tuesday. Other than that, I usually stream starting at between 12 and 2 p.m. EST. Usually till the end of Node Wars, except for Fridays, which are now going to be a variety stream. Other than that, I just answer any questions that I can, sort of potato around in PvP, fumbling around with the gear that I have. And yeah, trying to actually get good so that if the Renown score ever gets nerfed, I'll still be alright.
Nice. Well, what I will say about both of you guys, you both have very chill streams. You're both really reactive to your chat, and those are the types of people that deserve the props that they're getting. So I hope to see more from both of you. I'm Quite Gunjin. I was previously a part-time streamer. I do closer to full-time now, and I do a little bit of voice acting. Coming up soon, I'm going to start offering custom Twitch alerts for people for free. So if anybody has any custom Twitch alerts they want to do, I have a good knack for voice mimicry. Hit me up on either Discord or in-game or on Twitch, and I'll see if I can do that for you. Either way, this has been Talk is Cheap episode 2. Karma Renown with Layvan and DrDog. You guys have been great. Chat, you guys have been great. Don't forget to check out their channels. Hit the hit the follow button on their channels as well. You really should check out their content. It's been awesome, and I hope to see you guys in about a week or two for another podcast. Thank you so much.
All the best, man.
Thanks, guys, for coming by.
Thanks.
Take care, and I'll see you in your chats. It's been real.
You guys have a good day.
You too. Take care, guys. All right, so I've ended the call. Let me end that now. Hide that Discord. Thank you guys so much for coming by. It's been pretty cool. I love the fact that I'm a very small town unknown streamer, but I have an idea for a neat podcast. I have so much fun doing these. So if you have any ideas for new ones that you'd like to see me do, why am I holding down push to talk? If you have any ideas of new things that you want to see me do, hit me up, a whisper in Twitch. If you have questions that you'd like, Arose, if you
hit that button.
Hey, thanks for hitting that button, Cyrus. There's that Ninja Turtle, the best Ninja Turtle. Anyway, if you guys have any other questions for me, you can ask me now in chat. I know I'm not as reactive when I'm talking to them, but I'm here for you now.
You hit that button.
And good knitting, thanks to you too. So I'm going to be doing these at least once a week. I'm going to try. It all depends. You guys make these happen. The more people that follow, the more people that mention this podcast, the more likely I have guests coming in the future. It's not easy getting someone like DrDog when you're unknown, or like Layvan or BDO Blue. So I'm very happy to how nice and respectful those guys are. They've been awesome, and I hope to find more people like them in the future. As far as my content goes, yes, I am a budding voice actor. I am getting into cartoons and video games. Hit me up if you know anything about that or you want to know anything about that. And I will be doing custom alerts on Twitch, where that you hit that button that you heard, that was me. I don't just have a deep voice, I have other voices I can do as well. It's something that I practice
you hit that button.
So thank you, Grotesque Panda. That sounds disgusting, by the way. So maybe look forward to that from me in the future. Lately, I've been playing a lot of Pillars of Eternity. I just want to props that game like I have been hiddenly all stream.
You hit
it's a
that
fantastic
button.
role-playing game. Tayate Yurun? I don't know how to say that, but thank you so much. That's it, guys. That's about all I have for tonight. So if you have any questions, let's take a look at chat and see what we got going on here.
You hit that button.
Hey, Jaro Gaming, you guys are awesome. Thanks for all the follows. You guys are cool. I love this. This is so much fun. The podcasting and the video game journalism side is a lot of fun, so I hope to do more in the future. And yeah, it doesn't look like we have a lot of comments going on in chat, so I might just end this now. But you guys have been real. I love you all. It's pretty cool chatting with you. And don't forget to check DrDog and Layvan streams out. Seriously, I've been able to keep them running in the background for a really long time and just totally listen to them podcast style. They're really cool people. They have very entertaining streams. Personally, I clue into streams that are chill, informative, reactive to chat, and just not too emotionally charged. Some people like the screamy, yelly streams. I can't do it. I'm too old for that shit. But that's it. That's going to be me saying take care. I have nothing else to ramble about. Have a good one, and maybe I'll see you guys next week for the next podcast. I will be streaming some Pillars, and I will be streaming some BDO, possibly some League in the next little bit too. So I will see you around. Bye-bye. Yeah. Thanks, DrDog. See ya.